at the IH clock and you've got some pretty key markers there. I mean, you're measuring an awful lot in the background, but in the information age clock, you've got just a handful of markers that we can really, from a clinical perspective, I'm quite excited and hoping that this will be available worldwide when you launch, and not just in America. Yeah. Is it be possible with the, yeah? Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We're at the moment actually a very interesting question, because we're establishing partners in Europe. We have partners in Latin America, and there's a group in Prague as well that is quite interesting, part of the European deal that we're negotiating at the moment. And also potentially partners in China.
Okay.
So
because I'm hoping, because I'm in New Zealand obviously, and we get nothing here much. I'm hoping that this will be available worldwide, because in a clinical setting, like if I can use this clock to help my clients, see where they are before we try an intervention, and where we are 6 months later after doing whatever interventions we're doing, are we moving the needle? That would be a very powerful.
Yeah, I think the idea of actionable results is key here. I'm going to give you a very simple example. CXCL9 protein circulating in blood is associated with elevated arterial stiffening and left ventricular hypertrophy, and not really good endpoints as far as the cardiovascular aging goes. We also know that it increases with exposure to formaldehyde. And we know that formaldehyde can be everywhere where you have new furniture, for example, things like that.
Wow.
And so you can start measuring more formaldehyde that gives you a very directive way of approaching your client or your patient.
That's very clear. And the CXCL9 is something that I've, because when I was looking at the markers, you've got trail, you've got CXCL9, you've got eotaxin, you've got MMP9, I think it was. You've got a number of other ones as well. But I don't know if the MMP was in there or not, but it's one of the things you measure. Thank you.
It's part of the gene expression, marketplace.
I hadn't heard of a lot of these, like we tend at things like IL-6 and, TNF alpha and NF kappa B perhaps, and interleukin 1 beta and things like that. But these ones I'd never come across before, and I was fascinated. And the CXCL9 being one that seems to be quite a major with this cardiovascular aging, if you like. And just trying to research my own thing. What can CXCL9? And I wasn't aware of the formaldehyde one. So, but this is power lies. If we can get these markers, these targets that we're wanting to change, we're wanting to lower CXCL9, we're wanting to lower eotaxin. If we can measure them, and then we can try different interventions. And I know that you're working on that. What interventions? But tell us a little bit about those markers perhaps, and then where you're at the current interventions that we can try. I think you've done one with quercetin, which was an interesting one.
Yeah. So let me first discuss the technology aspect of it, and then the implementation. Because these are different things. So on the technology side, we can take those markers and run what we call gene compound enrichment analysis, that basically uses the entire interactome between genes and chemicals. And that can give you a list of very positive regulators and negative regulators of each one of the proteins. And these could be things that are in the air or in your foods, or either positive or negative. So you can start mapping the different compounds to foods and food servings, and so recommendations for supplements and stuff like that. So I think that in terms of technology, we can even nail down to the dosages that you may need as in to up-regulate or down-regulate the expression of that protein, right? Now, whether or not we as a company, Edifice Health, the company that is commercializing this test for inflammation, is going to give the end consumer all this information maybe not. Maybe that will be for their doctor, and will have the responsibility to discuss that with their patient. But as far as technology exists, implementation may be through
and this is even that's powerful. Like even for being able to test. So I have a biotech company. We're doing going after immunosenescence is one of our formulations that we have. I would love to be able to use that test to see, are we moving the needle? Is there possibilities of perhaps doing even clinical trials with different, that we can to see some of these things that we think may affect these, and then actually run different trials to see whether we actually are going to move the needle on these things, because then we've got actionable things that we can actually take away and we can show. Because when I'm working with clients, if I I can give them a protocol for what I think is the best supplements for their particular situation, perhaps, right? But I'm unable to measure a lot of it, and people often, when they're taking a supplement, expect it to be taking a Red Bull. No, they're going to feel more energy tomorrow, and it doesn't work like that.
So So let me just give more flavor to comment. There's been a need in the aging field to identify biomarkers of aging that are reliable, that can be used as a surrogate markers for aging, that you don't need to wait 15 years until you see a change. So these biomarkers that are informative for interventions, especially for interventions, needed in this space. Now, you probably know the X prize on HealthSpan. That is $101 million. We're applying on two different hats I'm wearing. One is Buck Institute, and the other one is the study in Toulouse in France with Professor Bruno Vella. And it's been very clear that they to assess the efficacy of the aging interventions, or the different things that they're requiring to, just to remind everybody in the audience, and to put that to discuss that for a moment. This is a study that should last for 1 year, so it's 1 year intervention, and they're expecting to see a 10-year improvement in functional aging. Okay, and with a target of 20 years. So it's very $101 million for the price. And so, but they want these different endpoints. They need to have. We're currently in discussions with the leadership at the X Prize to incorporate inflammatory age as an immune endpoint to assess the efficacy of all the interventions for all the different applicants to the X Prize.
So this is how powerful this test is. This is really out.
Yeah, it's going to
because I'm very much into and having lived having mum now for 10 years, and having seen the stress that it puts on the family, the financial costs, the basically that when you are dealing with some major ailment. If there's anything I can do to help people be in a preventative mindset, but it's a really hard sell. It's like trying to sell insurance, right? You're like, how do you measure it? You measure prevention. How do I get, you just maybe don't die, but you don't know that, it's really hard to get people motivated when you have no endpoint, when you have no measurement stick, so to speak.